LatinoTalkTV. I'm your host, Jose Luis Jimenez.
I'm Ben Mendez.
I'm Greg Cumpian.
And we have a new special guest host.
Rob Arteaga, psychotherapist.
Oh,
Hey.
Oh, man, is that to go there? Rob Arteaga. Because I knew him as Robinson. Now that's Rob. Orale. Well, welcome to the show, Robin.
Thank you.
Rob. You want to call Rob or Robinson? Can I call you Robinson?
You can call me Robinson.
Okay, I'll call you Rob then. Okay. Anyways, okay, welcome to the show. We are here live at Houston Media Source in the greater East End of Houston, Texas. What we're going to discuss right now is what's going on in the community, but tonight's topic's going to be really interesting. It's modern day machistas. If you don't know what that is, you're going to find out. And it ain't just for men anymore. But before we get into that, Ben, what's going on out there?
Breaking news. The Texans beat the Titans.
They sure did. Did you watch the game?
Yeah, watch the game.
I'll
Good
tell
game.
you what, it's exciting to see Texans 4-0.
It is.
First time. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the ticket sales.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I know the Texans is important, but you want to let Ben in why Rob's here? Ben, this is an intervention. We're about to psychotherapist. We're doing an
We're
intervention on
12-stepping you,
Ben.
brother. 12-step on you.
First step is to admit I have a problem.
You got it, bro.
We already knew you had a problem, but come on now.
Well, I'll tell you what, getting back to the Texans.
Now he's trying to avoid the topic now.
I'm really excited about this whole deal. I mean, this is the first time that we see the excitement in the Reliance Stadium.
No, it was crazy. I had the pleasure of working the stadium yesterday for my job, and you know we were sitting outside. We got there at 9 o'clock, and they told me I was already late because the tailgaters were there from 7 in the morning. Can you believe that? I mean, it's like I know we like to party, but man, 7 in the morning, barbecuing.
It's good that they're winning. It's good that I mean, they're on the road to the championship. It's good to see the stadium full economic impact. You know, I mean, heck, we've got a high caliber championship team.
Yeah. How about them Cowboys, though? They're playing right now, aren't they?
The Dallas Cowboys play tonight against Chicago. And again, another Texan team. We got to root for them as well.
Why?
Hey, they're from Texas.
So?
I don't care
I'm from
if they're
Houston.
Dallas. They're from Texas.
I grew up a Cowboy fan, but I mean,
Okay, stop the show.
Since I'm in Houston,
It's
I have
over.
to root for the Texans.
All right, let's get
All
back
right,
to some
hold
real
on.
news.
Greg didn't say anything. You a Cowboys fan or what?
I don't like Tony Romo because, you know, he went out with my girl Jessica. I haven't got over it.
You think we're talking about machistas today, right?
All right, let's go on to the next topic. Have you seen the polls lately for a presidential race?
Yeah, aren't they like tied right now? They weren't tied, and
Obama's ahead, according to what I heard last night, and pretty much all the swing states.
but aren't the other news stations saying that the polls are wrong and the sampling's bad, and you know?
Well, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but I tell you what, the momentum is with Obama right now.
I think it is. What do you guys think?
I tell you what, the president is doing a great job. The debate that'll be here on Wednesday night, we got to encourage people to get out and vote. Let your voice be heard. But I tell you that this debate is going to, you got to give Romney a little bit of a kudos to Romney because, he's a pretty fierce debater. I mean, the guy's a successful businessman. Pressure, I think he'll do good. So you got two strong alpha males. So we'll see who's going to come out the victor.
Rob, what do you think?
Well, I think that Obama's just a great speaker, so it'll be interesting what happens after the debate because he's got that charisma, you know, that's hard to top, and so such a big factor, an X factor in whatever political race that's going on.
Well, the debate, I think, is going to be one factor, but I think the one thing that really hurt Romney was the 47% comment that he made. I think that is still being talked about in the media. I saw it last night, so I know it's still talked about. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the debate.
I think that comment, even saying it in a private environment like that, I mean, there are cameras everywhere. You never know who's watching you. You don't know who's recording you. You got to understand that there's no such place as a private environment other than maybe inside your house. And even then, did you hear about those? There was a company that was controlling your iPad cameras and taking video of you inside your home in a private setting. You didn't even know your iPad camera was working. I mean, you just never know where Big Brother's watching these days. And in that situation where a presidential candidate goes out and says something like that, it just, it says a lot about him.
It's not even excusable. The gentleman was speaking from in his comfort zone, so he really let America know where he was at and who he was going to fight for, and it serves him right if he loses the election because of the comments like that.
The next topic.
Well, hold on. Let me go back to this
Okay.
Obama deal. There's a movie out, Obama 2016. Have you heard about that? It's a hard, for some people, a hard right movie. Some people say it's the truth. Other people say it's just a bunch of lies. But there's a lot of people watching that movie, and I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it. I want to see what kind of stuff is being said. But there's a lot of situations like that where people are, you know, really believe that that the president is Muslim, and they say all kinds of other things. And you know, how do you battle that kind of thing? All those lies just continuously keep getting fed to the community. How do we stop that?
Well, what happens is after he wins on November the 6th, on November the 7th, I think the Republicans are going to realize that they got 4 years of dealing with the president, and they got to get the people's work at work and get things done.
Rob, what do you think about all that stuff?
I think that actions speak louder than words, and these guys are always going to be out there coming up with crazy things, but the actions that Obama has towards the country and the community, I think, has more to say than all these crazy things. I mean, I remember back when George Bush was president, and they had real factual documentaries like, what was it, Fahrenheit 9/11, and all of those things, that they really didn't affect much on what he was doing in the elections.
Well, there's a video that I found on Frontline, and I highly recommend if you guys get a chance to do it. It's a Frontline PBS. But there's a video where Mitt Romney candidate, 1994 candidate, was debating Ted Kennedy. And in that video, he openly says that he believes that everyone in Massachusetts should have universal health care. Everyone in the United States should have universal health care. And today, he's totally against it. So that just proves to me once again that type of situation, the individual becomes a party just to the situation, pandering to the base rather than sticking to the ideals. I mean,
That goes back to the Tea Partiers.
it goes back to that.
Well, what happened is CNN did a deal on him. It was called Romney Unplug or something or another. And basically the way he addressed it was something to the sort that since then he's learned, and that's why he was entitled to change his mind. So, I mean.
So what do we do?
Vote.
Vote.
Let the voice be heard.
Hey, whether you vote for Romney or you vote for President Obama, go out and vote.
Do something.
Yeah.
Let your voice be heard. You were talking about a movie. Last Wednesday, we went to a movie premiere, In Search of the American Dream, produced and directed by Mr. Valdemar Rodriguez. Congratulations to him, by the way. Did a great job with the premiere. Ramon Ayala was there.
Yes, he was.
Irma Infante, Pedro Infante's daughter, was there. And a couple of the actors, actually all the actors were there. So it was great to see the success of the movie. And we look forward to seeing more of Valdemar.
Yeah. You guys got a chance to go?
No, I missed it.
Well, it was truly a great opportunity for Houston to showcase the talent that was here. And, you know, I really look forward to seeing what other work Valdemar is going to have out there. So I look forward to it.
So kudos to him. And I'm sure you've heard about the morning after pill being distributed by New York City
Yes.
to girls as low as 14 years old. Okay, now, would you agree with that or disagree with that?
When I first heard about that story, I thought, wow, what a sticky situation they want to get themselves into. After reading the article, though, one of the interesting points was that the parents had an opt-out option, and only 1 to 2% of parents in New York City, one of the biggest cities, actually opted out. So my deal was their efforts were trying to reduce teen pregnancy, and we're always looking for new ideas. That's something else. That's another venue to do it with, I guess.
And to educate the viewers, if you take this pill, I believe 72 hours after you had sex, then you will not get pregnant. Or 72 hours before.
After.
No.
The morning after.
Morning after.
Morning after, but up to 72 hours.
Right.
Then you will not get pregnant.
Right.
So I think it's dangerous. I think anytime you do that with teenagers in high school, it sets the wrong message. And the message that I think they would get is, go ahead and have sex, and you can take this pill and not worry about it the next day.
Right.
Yep.
And from my understanding, you know, and I'm not an expert at this, and what I'd like to do is open up the phone lines, if I could get the phone number out there. If we can find out, if you have some more details about exactly how this thing works, but based on the information that's provided, my understanding is that It forces a cycle to occur, and it's a heavy cocktail of hormones that's given to the female. You know, whatever age you can take it at, and I just don't understand why that would be, you know, a beneficial thing at that moment. Other than you know, I don't know if it's a beneficial thing or not, but not getting pregnant at that moment. But once again, we go into parenting, consenting adults. Is a 13 or 14-year-old child a consenting adult to take that type of medication? You know, you can't even go take, you know, what do you call those things?
Motrin or any kind of headache medication for kids. That you need a doctor's.
Exactly. You have doctors know to get all that stuff done, and here you're going to be able to provide that. I just think it's completely wrong.
Not to mention the STDs that someone might get, thinking that they're safe, so-called safe because of the morning pill, the morning after pill. Let's go on to the next topic. This one is right here in Houston. A police officer is on trial right now for raping an immigrant. Now, it is believed that he's raped numerous immigrants, and because they were fearful of going to the police, nobody knew about it. Okay, so I'm glad to see that he is finally going to trial. See what happens.
Wow.
The trial's been going on. It got suspended for a little while because the judge had something going on personally. Was bad. He was having sex in a patrol car while on duty in uniform. Try to explain that. You got some explaining to do.
Yeah, some big time explaining to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in that case. And then that wraps up the news.
Well, no, let's go into a little bit more there. I mean, I want to get like the emotional, psycho, and analytical side of those things. How can someone go down that path? You take an oath to protect the community, you know, and now you take advantage of the situation and you abuse your powers. How does someone go into that type of situation?
I think that one of the reasons why that occurs is because you don't get a negative consequence when you first start to take those power trips. If there's not a negative consequence, and how do you patrol that? You know, that's a very delicate thing to patrol. If you can't really patrol the people that are supposed to be protecting, then that makes it very, very difficult to really get a hold of that kind of an issue, because it happens because we as humans like to control. We like to do that. And when we're given that power, it can happen where we abuse of that power.
And what about the impact to the victims?
Oh, I mean, that's sexual trauma is one of the hardest things to treat, because it has such an emotional effect on us. I mean, anything that can be related to police or the sounds that you hear, the aromas that were occurring, can trigger back memories and create that anxiety that can just be super debilitating.
I'll tell you what, you know, the gentleman obviously has gotten away with this for a couple of years. He's been doing it. And I would like to see more of the females that were actually raped come forward. I'm sure there's many out there. It's just a matter of them feeling safe to come forward.
Exactly.
And I think that's the hardest part, is finding and believing that there is a safe environment where you can actually ask for help and receive help. You know, so if anybody's out there and you've experienced something in this situation where you've been abused by someone in power, been sexually abused, or whatever the case may be, please take action. Call a rape crisis hotline. You can call the Houston Police Department and report the situation and ask. And if it's a police officer that did that, ask for the Internal Affairs Division and speak to someone directly there. Don't just keep it to yourself. Do something about it and keep reporting it until the person stops, because you may not be the first victim, but we have to make sure you're the last. You know, that being said, are there any other hot topics?
That's it.
All right. All right, now we're going to get into the fun stuff. We're going to talk about modern day machistas. If you don't know what a machista is, you're going to find out. And being a machista is no longer just for men. There are some women out there that are taking this stuff pretty darn seriously. So that being said, you are watching Latino Talk TV here in the Greater East End and Houston Media Source. We'll be right back after this quick break. You're back here watching Latino Talk TV here in Houston, Texas. Today we're going to be discussing modern day machistas. If you don't know what a machista is, we're going to find out. And we have Mr. Rob Arteaga, a psychotherapist.
Yes.
All right, got it right. So Rob, please let us know what a machista is and how it works today.
Well, I like the fact that you say that what a modern day machista is, because in the traditional sense, the machista is the typical man that goes to work, that comes home, and the wife is just playing the typical female role in the house, taking care of the household, and not really having any other kind of role except for that. I think in modern day times it's very, very different, including in the dating world. The roles are shifting so much because there's so much opportunities now available for women, where women are making more money. The men are not as much enrolled in college as the women are. So it's very difficult for sometimes the man to even know what role it is that he's supposed to be playing. And because the females are now taking some of those machista type roles because they have some of that control.
You know, you look at the different cultures, and I would say that the Hispanic culture is a little bit different than the African American or the Anglo culture. What are some of those differences?
Well, some of the differences are that I think that the traditional machista still exists a little bit more in the Hispanic families, more so than in black or white culture. What that means is that it just is a little bit more common that the man still goes to work, wife takes care of the household, kind of the roles.
So in the past, a machista pretty much told the woman what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Mm-hmm. Take care of the kids, stay home, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So what does the roles look like today? How can you say that man's still a machista or that woman is now a machista?
Well, I think it has to do, and in every relationship, there's always one person that has a little bit more control than the other person. And I think that in order to be able to identify that, you have to go back and we got to define what a machista is. If we're going to define that, then it would be kind of like the more traditional, the man that rules the household by iron fist. And I think the same can go for a woman. If the woman takes on that role, which they can now, I think that's how we can say that that's the way that a female is doing that now in the household.
I think it's about respect. Respecting your partner, having your partner respect you. And when you lose it, I mean, you're a professional. When you lose that, then the abuse happens. And understanding each other's boundaries.
Well, one of the interesting statistics that I was reading was that now the lines between infidelities are now so almost even between men and women. It's not just now the men that are cheating. Now, because psychologists attribute it to the fact that women now can go out into the world and work and not feel like they're dependent on a man, that not only do they feel like they can do it, they don't have to count on the man to support them, but there's also more opportunities to go out and meet people, which the number one factor that can determine whether an infidelity is going to happen or not is the opportunity.
So what you're saying is as long as the opportunity exists, there's a better chance of doing it?
Correct. Are you traveling? Are you meeting a lot of people from the opposite gender? How much time are you spending with that person? Those are all things that create opportunity.
So what if it's a business environment? What if it's your job to be networking?
Most of the time, the infidelities that occur with people that we meet at work. So yes, it could be. I'm not saying that because that opportunity is there that everybody's going to take it, but that is the number one factor that will determine whether it's going to happen or not.
And obviously, everybody works with different people. So the opportunity is there pretty much everywhere you can think of, even in the church, where Correct. You would least likely think there would be opportunities. Unfortunately, it's abusive relationships sometimes in the church, but we won't get into that. But I will tell you that, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are getting divorced nowadays for whatever reason. And I imagine most of them it's because of cheating. Was that correct?
Actually, 70% of the couples that experience an infidelity decide to keep going with the relationship. So I would have thought the same thing too, but it looks like most couples decide to come back and move forward, because it is possible. I mean, no matter, I think it goes back to what you're saying about the respect issue. If you have the respect, if you have the other components that are necessary to have a relationship move forward, it can happen as long as both parties are willing to put forth in their part.
Man, this is a really interesting topic. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. If you're watching us right now and you have any questions or have any ideas on why, infidelity happens or how machista, happens, I guess. I don't even know how to explain it anymore. But our phone number is 281-846-5079. Join us in this conversation. If you consider yourself to be a machista, male or female, chime in. Tell us why you do that. Do you bully? Is it machista really a house bully?
If we're thinking about the traditional sense of a machista, yes. A machista is just somebody that controls the household no matter what, without consideration from the other person. I think that's the key issue. When you don't take into consideration what the other person is contributing or just their emotional stability, I think that can constitute somebody that is a machista.
Interesting.
You look scared.
A Richard Nixon moment.
3 guys sitting here. Oh man, they're talking about.
Who invited this guy?
I
We should have
know.
a female sitting right here to talk about it.
Well, I keep inviting me. Okay, well, this is a really interesting because all 3 of us. Usually, we have a lot to say about everything.
I plead the 5th.
So are you the boss in your household?
No. I honestly, no. I mean, I can act like it, but whenever I push my own boundaries, I get pushed right back.
I think what he's talking about more is there's husbands that give their wives like an allowance.
Yeah.
Count the miles on their car that they're moving, things like that, counting. So
That sounds like jealousy to me.
Or insecurity.
That sounds more like
Insecurity, yeah.
control, and it could lead to insecurity. One of the interesting things that I see in a lot of couples is when the man is used to controlling so much and the woman finally gets tired of it and wants to leave, if they don't have that same control, it just throws everything out of whack. And I have to be able to work with that and let them know how to deal with that, because if they don't, they can't go back to controlling the way they used to and still be okay in the relationship. Because one of the differences now with the role reversals is that women feel empowered enough to be able to go out and get support, whichever way that may be, and not have to depend on the man. In the past, it would occur so much because there was no choice but to stay with the man. So it occurred more often, and it was more of a taboo subject.
So is this leading to more quote unquote broken families or single parent families? Or is it people running away from dealing with this? Because, we know some people out there who intentionally never, hook up or get together with anybody else because they're trying to avoid the wreckage of their past.
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact modern day relationships, all the issues of the past?
Well, I think that it depends on the individual. It depends on what kind of upbringing you had. But one of the things that is affected whenever you grow up in a household where only one parent was there, whichever one it may be, mom or dad, is we learn how to deal with the opposite sex in the way that we dealt with our parents. So if I had a good relationship with mom, it's a lot more likely for me to have a good relationship, not just with females, but especially with my partner. And one of the interesting things that I have with men that I work with, especially with anger management, the first thing they tell me is, my only problem is with my wife and with my mom. And it's like, that's always the case. So those are the types of things that I work with them, because those are usually one of the key events that triggers anger.
So they have mamitis.
Not necessarily mamitis. I think that
I'm sorry, let's define mamitis. Define mamitis.
Mamitis is whenever a man longs or a child longs for mom. So I don't think it's necessarily mamitis. It could be that it's just a permissive mom that has allowed son to get away with certain things that encourages the anger or the emotional outbursts.
Now that we have social media, I'm sure that there's a lot more things going on. It'd be interesting to see. Now we have a lot of the people that are staying home. they don't have anything to do all day. You know, they're taking care of the little ones maybe, or maybe not. But they're playing with social media. So what happens then? Is there more infidelity because of that, or less?
That's a real interesting topic because I wrote an article about that, and one of the interesting stats is that in 80% of divorce cases, social media is used to prove infidelity. But if you think about it, as easy as it is to contact somebody on Facebook, it's also very common for people not to be careful on what they post. So just as easy as it makes it to contact somebody, it also makes it very easy to get caught. So it really depends on the person, on how they decide to use that medium, but it's just another way to connect people.
So if you're gonna look for a reason to do it, you're gonna find it.
Yes, that's true. And one of the reasons why it occurs in women a lot of times is because when they are in that kind of a role where they're at home, and not necessarily that staying home leads you to that, but when the woman starts feeling like they're not understood, like they're not being heard, like what they have to offer doesn't count, that emotional insatisfaction leads them astray.
So is it lack of appreciation that is one of the main causes?
That definitely plays into the mix, yeah.
Man, we needed a woman here. All right, Greg, you've never been this quiet ever.
Well, I tell you what, he brings up a good point about the cause and effect on the kids. And what your children see, especially your sons, they'll be the same way as they grow older. So the example of the kids and respecting the not only their mothers, but their sisters, making them to respect their sisters also. And I don't know, I guess, you know, us growing up in the time we did, and Daddy was a boss, you know. A lot of times once you have that position of leadership, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I don't want to make any decisions. You know, you make decisions all day long. I want to come home and just, okay, whatever.
And actually, you got a really good point there because, you know, we work all day. I mean, I run my own business. All of us do.
Yeah.
And there's some times when I get home, it's like, I don't want to think. Honestly, I just don't want to think. It's okay, whatever you want. It's like, I make jokes about it, but I'm serious. Come Friday night, my calendar belongs to my family. It's like, what are you doing Saturday? Oh, I mean, that's really my answer. I have to ask the wife, see what's going on. Now, granted, you might, if she was watching, I wish she was. I'm surprised she's not calling in, but, right?
She's our only caller.
Right?
She's our only viewer.
Right? It's like, hey, you're lying. No, I'm just kidding. But what about the situations where, well, you know, let's go back to one step. You know, growing up in a household with a dual parent household, mother and father. In some cases, religion plays a big part. You know, I grew up in a home where I mainly went to church with my mom. You know, my father didn't go because he was always working. So my vision was, man works, mom takes care of the kids. You know, and she had her own businesses too, so we're always working. But religion played a big part in my upbringing too. How does religion play a part in today's infidelity? You know, are there people who are using the religion as an excuse, or does it play any part in there? Or does it impact them emotionally?
I rarely see that religion is a key factor in infidelities, but when you're talking about, you know, how religion plays into the family roles, I think that's something that we do see in Scripture. You know, that the man is supposed to take a certain role and the woman is another one, but not so much in infidelities. I don't see that playing out too much in the couples issues that I get to see.
What do you see a lot of?
What I see a lot of is men with anger that's out of control. I see a lot of women now wanting to be unfaithful, kind of to get back at the man. And the man has a lot more issues with dealing with the infidelity than the woman does. And for whatever reason that may be, I think that it has to do with the fact that it's kind of a taboo issue. I think that it's harder for a man to say, my woman cheated on me in a group of men without the group of men nagging at you or telling you, how could she do this? Or, you know, she's just any kind of a girl. Or, you know, I think that it's a lot harder for a man socially to be talking about that. And what happens is that because they don't have an outlet like women do, that turns more into anxiety. And that anxiety kind of builds and builds and builds until the point where they have to seek professional help.
Rob, in this economic downturn, the economy, does it play a factor in this as far as people sacrificing, maybe not being able to go to the beauty shop or get their nails done or buy that Louis Vuitton purse? Does, I mean, the selfishness, what factor does that play?
The selfishness as part as whether a down economic time affects selfishness, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I would say that in down economic times, more the role that it plays is in financial stability. I don't think that it has to do with selfishness, because I guess I can see your point where you might want to keep more for yourself or for your family, but
Sacrifice and say you lost that job, and instead of living in that nice home, you got to live in an apartment. Or families, you know, that cause and effect being, you see it happening?
I didn't see it too much play out, and I think that one of the nice things about living in Houston is that we didn't see the city take as big of an economic effect as in other places. Maybe that's probably why I didn't see it too much in my practice.
So is infidelity on both sides based on social status? Do you see, what I mean by that is, do you see men cheating with higher status women, or lower status women, women cheating with higher status men or lower status? What I mean by status is financial status. Do you see the different levels? I mean, because does a woman have the conversation, this guy's only giving me this, and this guy over here has got the nice house and blah blah blah, River Oaks?
I don't see that being played out too much. I think it's common. It's a lot more common for a female to look for somebody for the emotional fulfillment, regardless of social status. So I will see cougars, for example, that are having X issue in the relationship or just within themselves, but that are okay with having a relationship with a man that's not making as much as she is, but who is looking for that emotional fulfillment.
Cougars.
Okay, Rob, whatever you do.
Go Cougs!
You're allowed to stay on the show, but don't go talking about the Cougars, brother.
Hey, they won this weekend. They beat their
No,
Owls.
you're talking about the wrong Cougars, brother. You know what I'm talking about. Leave the Cougars alone.
Leave the Cougars alone. All right. Speaking of Cougars, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You're watching Latino Talk TV, and we're talking about being a modern-day machista. So we'll be right back. And you're back. You're watching Latino Talk TV, and I'm sorry, I'm laughing a little bit too much because, we're usually very loudmouth individuals, but today we're all kind of quiet and really soaking in this.
Oprah moment or something. Where's Oprah at?
Right?
Is this on TV right here?
I had a question for you regarding the counseling. Do you see younger couples coming to you now?
I see a variety. I see a good variety. I have seen very young couples, like in their early 20s, come to me, which is not the norm. I guess the norm is 30 and up, or late 20s and on up. That's what I see. But what I do notice is that it's very hard for us as Latinos to seek out professional help, because I think it's still a bit of a taboo to have to admit that we have to go see somebody. One of the funniest moments that I had with an individual was when he told me, he's like, "Yo no quería venir con un locólogo."
Locólogo.
Which basically means I didn't want to come see the guy that treats crazy people. But I mean, if you think about it, that's still kind of our mentality. We don't see it as a way to improve an emotional situation. We see it as hard to admit that we need help, or that we can even accept it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a stranger in most cases, so it's hard to open up. So I can see why. I don't blame some people for not going, but some people really need it.
Yes.
Would you go?
I wouldn't go.
You wouldn't go?
No, I wouldn't go.
I would go. I think I would go. I'll be open to it.
Ben, there's a thing called a court order. You might have to go. Right, Doc?
He's like, I ain't going.
That brings up a good point. Are most of your cases court order?
No, actually, they're not. I do see some of that, but maybe under 5% is what I would say are court-ordered clients.
So what are some of the symptoms that someone can be looking for to see that they need some help, or some of the things that might be considered normal in household environments but really aren't?
One of the things that I would say to look for is if any kind of emotional distress is preventing you from doing something like working, or preventing you from being happy in a relationship. If there's just constant arguing and you just feel like there's no way out, no way to solve it, it's time for somebody to help you out.
Is that it?
I mean, I guess I'm kind of just speaking very broadly, but one of the things that I see a lot of is depression. Depression to the point where you're not really wanting to get out of bed. And that's a very hard kind of a case to get to seek help because they are usually not very motivated. So it depends, but those are also cases that are very rewarding to see the changes because I know it takes so much for them to come and see me. But when I see them making changes, it makes it very, very rewarding.
It's like a chick flick episode, right?
He's not a machista at all. ¿Qué pasó? Y'all getting so quiet. Y'all turn red and everything.
No, I think what happens is that there's still what's wrong with privacy. I think that there's some things that are kept private amongst the family, and the family works things out. If there's something to be worked out.
Reminds me of the Maury show. Is that how you say it?
Maury
show.
Go, Ricky. Go, Ricky.
Ricky Lake.
Jerry.
Well, actually, I think that's a very good point. Based on a family situation, family values, Latino culture, you know, there is that situation where it's okay. Es adentro de la casa. You know, it's behind our doors. Don't say anything. You know, so some of the things that become normal behind those closed doors you don't want to talk about, but inside those closed doors could be emotional distress. There could be abuse. You know, there could be, I guess, emotional drama and trauma.
Children getting affected, you know, just not feeling satisfied. I mean, how good is it to want to keep somebody that's like in bed there without wanting to seek help? Or if you're having constant arguing or bickering at home, why wouldn't you want to make that a little bit better? Because the better you are as a couple, the better the family's going to be in general.
So, is there such thing as preventative maintenance for this type of situation to avoid becoming a machista?
I would say yes, but it does take, it's very rare for people to seek out that kind of preventative stuff. I think that one of the things is key before like marrying is just premarital counseling. There's also things like couples workshops or weekends where they go and they get to sort out some issues. That's probably more.
What about a prenup?
A prenup?
That's like counseling, right?
Talking like a man.
I say she's a gold digger.
Sign right here.
If you want to take care of your money, that's what you do.
I'm sorry. So prenups, premarriage counseling.
There's also just books on how to manage relationships. One of the ones that I just read not too long ago was Gottman. John Gottman is a very famous relationship counselor, and I use a lot of the methods that I in my couples counseling from him. And he just has amazing things that talks about like what are some of the mentalities that lead us to divorce, such as defensiveness or
That's not true.
or try to establish kind of like friendship, because when we're bickering or not satisfied in a relationship, there's not a whole lot of friendship. There's not a lot of fondness or admiration for that other person. So one of the things that I try to do is get couples to try and listen to each other and create that emotional stability, or just not really stability, but more understanding. Because the more I am willing to give in to somebody's needs, the more they are going to want to give in to mine.
The Marvin Zindler, not Marvin Zindler, but that group had they showed a couple that was married for like 60 years. And the man said, just agree with her all the time. That's how you'll last 60 years.
So I'm sure you've had many cases. Which one stands out?
Which one stands out in regards
No names.
In regards to couples?
Couples.
One that stands out was a man that actually intimidated me when he was in the session. He had a very strong look to him, and in the session, that's one of the things that I noticed, and I pointed it out to him, and he said, "Yeah, well, that's something that my wife even points out." And so a lot of times for guys, it's very difficult to identify what are the emotional issues that we're going through because we're not used to talking about emotions, as we can see right here. And so it's not normal for us to call up a guy friend and say, oh, man, I felt so stressed today because this and that happened. We just don't talk about
That's a George
things.
Lopez moment. I'm not going to say it.
So, that's something that I have to kind of teach them how to do because one of the modern type of women, one of the things they look for is a man that can identify their feelings without being needy. I think that when we hear that women want us to be sensitive, it means that we are going to be all mushy and weak because we identify our feelings. One of the things that women look for is be able to say, you know what, today I do kind of feel stressed, but give me a second, I'll be over it in a bit. Because that's something we don't do. We don't identify what's going on with us, and we just do what we do to get over it without really being too aware of what's going on.
Okay, let me try it. Greg.
Yes, Jose. Yes, Jose.
Jose. All right. No, I can't even do it.
But a guy told me one time, he said the best advice is never quit dating your wife. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
I date my wife every day.
What does that mean for you?
Well, you know, what you used to do when you dated, you know, and being able to kind of have that balance from work and from everything, even the kids, and kind of have that one-on-one time. It's hard to do, but...
One of the most interesting little tidbits that I found out about couples that are successful is that couples that are successful or report to be happy just turn towards each other when they're communicating. And that one little thing can make such a big difference. And if you think about it, when you see distressed relationships, one of them's talking and the other one is lost in space.
That's true.
Is that what you call it? Huh?
I told you last week. No, you didn't.
You're describing my office environment. They were grabbing at me this morning. They're like, you don't pay attention to us. I'm like, man, am I at home? Gee, I'm just playing.
That.
Well,
No, we're actually going to do something special. We're going to bring our executive producer, one of our executive producers, Miss Pat Perez, the female. I call her the mom of the show because she pretty much runs the show, runs the place. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to Pat on so you can get a female perspective on what we're talking about, all right? You're watching Latino Talk TV. We'll be right back. Back here live at Houston Media Source. You're watching Latino Talk TV. Now we have Miss Pat Perez, who is our producer on the show. We brought her on because the truth is, we're quiet. Okay, so you know, we need a female perspective. What do you think of the show so far, Pat?
Well, topics are great. I like that. And why are y'all being so quiet?
I'm trying to talk.
They're great. No, I like what you said, Greg. Yes, keep dating. Always date. Make time to date and just make time for each other. And that will help your relationship, I feel. Me personally, that's what I like.
What about the in-law syndrome with relationships? That's huge, right?
Sure.
The
family.
The family dynamic, the mother-in-law being either too intrometida or whatever, or the sisters, I know you did it, and all that bull. That's a big deal, huh?
It is.
Sure.
Well, and what if the man actually tries to be a helping, caring individual, and the mom shows up? Mira, ni te trae la comida a la mesa. Mira, no haces nada. You know, that kind of stuff. In other words, you know, the mom's over here pushing the man to become more of the machista when, you know, he's trying to be a partner. So how do you handle that?
I think that's one of the reasons why that still exists in our community, because we grow up with our families painting this picture of what a woman should do for you or what a man should do. And I think that does play a big part because it instills the roles, you know, and it makes us feel like we have to enforce that, or because we're not being exactly like the best family, that there's something wrong with us.
So what is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You've got an obligation to your wife first and foremost. Is that correct?
Sure.
Rather than your mother, your in-law, or whatever. Mind the clock, ma'am. This is a free deal, right?
I have a question for Miss Pat here. So tell us about communication between you and Javier. Is it good or can it be better?
Hey, who's Javier?
It can always be better.
Javier's
It's
her
good.
husband.
It's good, but it can always be better. There's times that I know that if we're angry at each other, he usually just quiets. And I'm one that tell me what's wrong. What's happening? Talk to me.
Sure.
And
I noticed that one time, and it was he had to use the bathroom really bad.
Leave Javier alone.
but communication's essential. It's very important to me.
See, but one of the things that happens, and the reason that we bottle up like that, is because we're overwhelmed emotionally. We're angry. We don't know how to let that out because we don't have that emotional vocabulary. So one of the things that often occurs is we'll want to go take a break, and the woman wants to come back and resolve it.
Right.
And it also occurs the other way around. The woman can be like that, and the man can go and chase. But that's something that's crucial is to communication is to give yourself that space so that you can come back and really talk about it, not communicate with that emotion still in gear.
Right. And lately, I mean, well, not lately, but I mean, now I think I've learned, okay, he's angry right now, or something's bothering him, something's on his mind. Just walk away, and then leave it alone for a while, and then come back and let's try again. And it's worked for us.
How does that play out with you guys?
Come
on, I know that's happened with you guys in the relationship. What goes on when you're upset or when you don't feel like you can get that stuff out?
Well, I blew up. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, when I was younger, I'd get mad as hell. But as you get older, like, oh, whatever. Yeah, I thought, yeah.
I try to walk away, but you know, it happens.
Been married too long.
What did Tony Montana
So what does that
say?
mean?
Give
So
her a
you blow
Quaalude,
up?
she loved me in the morning.
Oh, Chihuahua. And on that note, okay, we'll avoid that one. You can edit that one out.
So do you have some seniors that have come to you recently? And so what are the main concerns that they have?
Seniors?
Seniors.
People 55 and up, what you mean? One of the cases that I remember seeing was it wasn't recent, but I have seen them, and a lot of times it's guys with anger issues in their relationship.
But they've been married so long, and yet
Yeah.
it's just now coming to a counseling session.
Well, it depends. At first, when I first started doing this kind of work, those cases would intimidate me because I would think to myself, if they're in the counseling session with me, what are they thinking about me? What can this guy help me with, you know? But I would just be pretty honest with them and tell them we're going to try this, that, and the other. And if it doesn't work, we'll try and get you the help that you actually do need. So, because looking for a therapist is kind of looking for a right personal trainer. You got to see which right fit, what modality they use. So it makes a difference. But it's with the older gentlemen, it depends on what kind of a relationship you have with them. Because the better the relationship, the more likely they are to implement the techniques that I try and give them to just better the relationship.
And do you do just husband and wife, or do you do friends, best friends? Do you do
Partners?
What other therapy sessions do you
I
do?
have gotten calls in regards to homosexual relationships, but I've actually never seen them. There are the same dynamics play out in the relationship. There's got to be friendship. There's got to be trust. There's got to be communication, fondness and admiration, dreams, goals that there is for the two of them. The same dynamics kind of play out, and you will see kind of like the same kind of issues just happening with them that would be normal in a heterosexual relationship.
What about the lack of sex?
What about it?
Yeah, that's a big deal, right?
It can be, yes.
It drives a relationship.
It can drive a
Oh,
relationship.
my neck, my back hurts, my head hurts.
The way that I see it is that the physical part of a relationship is just another way to connect emotionally. And if that's going right, it usually feeds into any other aspect of the relationship, as well as if that's going wrong, it also will feed into it. But you can also use the going out and date nights. You can use the communication. You can use any other part of the relationship to work towards bettering that kind of a physical relationship, because the more the way that I see it is that's just another way to show the other person that you care. The way that you manage that is by trying to please the other person. The more you want to please the other person, the more they're going to want to please you. And that's just not true for the physical part. It's true for other aspects of the relationship.
So, Pat, did we cover something good today?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
You know, one thing I admire about Javier and Pat is they do things together all the time. You see Javi, you see Pat. You see Pat, you see Javi. And not to mention the kids. If you look around in our studio, her children are helping us backstage here. And so that dynamic that they have is, I think, is great.
But Pat, is that a little bit much sometimes, really?
Well, you have to understand our situation, though. We've been married 27 years, but we don't live together. He's taking care of his father, an elderly man. I take care of my mother, who has Alzheimer's. And so we're between houses. And so anytime we get together, we try to be together. So, you know, that's where you'll see us at meetings. That's why, that's our time. You know, oh, we didn't make time, but there's, you know, if you're going to a meeting, I'll be with you. I support you and whatever. The gala that was over the weekend, my son was, it was his birthday Friday. So we had to be at the gala. I'm like, come on, we'll celebrate your birthday there. So I try to bring everybody in as much as possible, whenever possible. So I try to take the opportunities as they come.
You say that, but early on I remember, and I was told that the couple that plays together stays together. You know, and that's something that I think is true. You know, it's all, along with also working together. There's also
I've heard the praise together. I've never heard the plays together.
I've heard both, yeah.
plays and praise together, because you gotta have more. You have to have something to talk about other than just talking about what I did alone. You gotta do stuff together, right? What about couples that actually work together, truly work 8 hours a day together?
I personally find that very difficult to manage. I mean, what is it that you're going to talk about? You know, unless there is that very distinct goal that you guys are both having at your jobs or are just content doing it, I think it can be something that leads you into some sort of insatisfaction if you're not very proactive on what it is that your goals are, what it is that you're doing to have fun, because work, and then no play. I think that you have to have that play to reconnect.
I think we need to bring John T., the producer of the show.
I think so
on
too.
The show to answer some of these questions.
Quick break. 1 second. We got a couple minutes. Take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're bringing John T. Take a quick break. We're gonna have a whole different perspective right now. Come on, cut it out, John T. Talk TV, now we have John T. John T, say hello.
Hello.
He's our executive producer, but the reason we brought him on is because obviously he's not Latino. Okay, so what have you thought about this whole thing? And are you the Machista in the house?
I don't think it's a Latino white thing. I think it's a relationship thing.
I think so too.
So are you a Machista?
You better believe it. No, I'm not. No. It's like, I believe me and my wife have a great relationship. Because like you said, communication. We can truly communicate, and we communicate really well.
But who really is the boss?
She's the boss.
She's the boss.
Yeah, she's the boss.
There's no
Rightly
question about
so.
that.
She's the boss.
No, unless it comes to technology.
Technology, you're the boss.
Yeah, but that I get my one little space. But she's the boss. But I don't think it's a Latino, white, black, thing. I think it's more of just a human thing, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And on that note, anything else? Any closing remarks? Greg, you feel better now?
Feel good.
All right. You can breathe now. You can breathe.
Well, John T. had thrown a couple questions at us.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
I don't. I think y'all ask all my questions, because I don't know how I would be working with my wife. I don't think that would work out very well, because it would be a conflict of interest in a sense.
Sure.
That's difficult. I've done that. I've worked with Javier on some things, and I'm like, oh, sometimes I want to choke him.
Exactly.
And I'll walk away, and then I have to think, okay, you're an employee right now. You're not his wife.
And I love my wife way too much to work with her.
Well, I work with my wife, and it works good. It really does, because she really does bring that dynamic to the office. The problem that I have is when we're not at the office. I don't want to hear about, well, did so-and-so call you, or did you? I don't want to hear that. I'm home already.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it too. I guess it has its advantages because one, it's family, but the other part of it
Cheap
is
labor.
that it's cheap labor.
Not
But
my way.
usually opposites attract. You know, if opposites attract, what you bring to the table, your wife might be able to complement a whole lot better, and that's usually the case. One of them is late all the time. The other one is super timely. One of them is very sociable. The other one is not. So there's a way. There is an advantage to it, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be challenging.
Yeah.
So I hope that we redefine the definition of a machista. No longer just a man, or it can be now a woman, right?
Yes.
And it's all based on family dynamics. So if you need help, reach out, find somebody that can help you and reestablish those boundaries for that relationship, because you know it's a new day. You can figure out new ways of living. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Anybody want to say we're good? We're good. All right. On that note. You're watching Latino Talk TV. We'll be here next week. Have a great night.